here worked at Vauxhall? Who worked in the styling department?
I worked in the building, but not...
I worked in the laboratory right next to the styling.
Right.
I worked in the styling department, is that the same?
Yeah, we're going to fight to the truth a little bit, but no, we better try and be as authentic as we can.
My dad worked in design.
Oh, fantastic. And your name, sir?
What's your name?
What's your name?
Oh, Jerry.
Jerry, nice to meet you. Lovely to meet you. You definitely can't lie now. And, so basically we were asked to do a talk about the styling and design department. You'll hear two different words. Styling is one era, design is another era, and we flip between the two, but essentially it's styling and engineering. But the design department as a whole contains both. I never worked at Vauxhall, I can gladly admit that. I wanted to be a Vauxhall car designer. I trained all the way through, and then the recession hit me and I couldn't actually get work in the car design industry. So I went into graphic design, which is why we're all nice and prepared. And come on in.
This is Bedford, Vauxhall.
And it's quite interesting for me because I moved back from North Wales to Luton in '96 when Vauxhall was still very big and Griffin House was a powerhouse of headquarters and it was busy and there was Vectras and Calibras, all sorts of cars everywhere. And obviously you naturally assume they still designed and made all their own cars and they did it all in Luton. So that's why I wrote to them and my letters over there, I still have it. And I have a really good passion for Wayne Cherry and all the work he did under GM. And that passion carried on all the way through my university, and then of course he retired and I never got to go into that industry. But in sliding doors moments, I seem to have come right back and I've actually become more involved with the styling department than I ever would have if I ever worked there, so it's kind of a funny turn of events really. And I've had a fantastic couple of years trying to bring all this story together, basically so that we can see that gorgeous piece of artwork that was hidden in the design department for 60 years, 64. Till 2025. So we'll learn a lot more about how that was made a bit later on as well. It's in 2022, I was talking to the cleaner because they said they're going to demolish Griffin House, and I was quite disappointed about hearing that news because I never got to actually see the styling studios because it was even closed off even until then because BWI was a very private company. They made suspension systems for AMG, Porsche, pneumatic systems. It was all still very much research and development. I thought I'm never going to get to go and see Wayne's office and see what it was like. And purely by chance, the cleaner at the printers I was working at said her husband worked there and had taken a voluntary redundancy. So he will take me up there and take me up. I was like, I can't quite believe that. That's pretty, well, that's great. So I had a private tour with her husband, Brian. Joyce and Brian, fantastic pair. And yeah, we walked around, and the first time I saw this, it didn't have any light through it, so it just looked black. And I was like, that's quite interesting. And we wandered around, and we went to Wayne's office and walked through the corridor. I sat on his loo, I was very pleased with that. And looked out of his window and on the viewing terrace, and it was derelict, and it wasn't at all as glamorous as Paul's going to probably remember it was. But it was a real good moment for me, and I really enjoyed sort of looking out of Wayne's window that he would have looked out on. And then I set about trying to think how we can actually save this piece. But it was only when I walked down the corridor, the long corridor, prestige corridor, that the light came through, and I was just like, this is far too beautiful to let go. We have to try and save this window. So we tried to get everyone involved. They were going to try and save it, but when you don't know anything about something, you don't have any attachment to it. So I had to do a lot of research. I got a grant from the lottery, which has funded this exhibition as well, to produce a book for Prologis, in order all the research of the styling department in it, in order to convince them this is worth saving, this is what you need to do and make this effort to save this piece of history. And in February 23, I presented with Prologis to the stakeholders of the local council all their heritage, and in the end they really want to make sure it's saved. And they're going to build it into their plan. That's what they left it out as. Probably October 23, we all gathered the cars for the one last time before the full closure of the site under BWI. So it was completely empty. We brought them back into the workshops where they used to one time end up, just below the styling auditorium. And yeah, we've got some really beautiful final photos of the 3 concept cars all together, all in one place, back home. It was fantastic, and that's thanks to these 2 guys. We've got all the information for those over there. We'll talk about them a bit later. And then the site closed till October 24, and we just saw that they were pulling the windows out and throwing stuff out. So off we went, didn't we? Straight out to the gate. Hello, you don't know us. We showed them and told them what we were up to, why we were there, why we were interested in this history. And the builders, Spencer and Simon, were the builders of Winvic, really took us on board, and they gave us a private tour of the whole what they were doing, explaining the asbestos removal problems and challenges they're having. They didn't know how they were going to take this piece out. This is 8.5 feet in diameter, it's big, it's a big piece. It's 1.5 tons of glass and concrete. They did not have a clue how they were going to take it out. So when we said, well, we've got all the original drawings from the architects, which tell them how they're building it into the wall, we can help you with that. And we built up a really good relationship with them. So every 2 weeks we went to do a site visit and see their progress. And January 25 was when they did all the final photography of the window, just before the final removal, and Gary was the removal. So yeah, we were there to witness that. And then February 2025 was when it all happened, and it literally saw daylight, proper daylight for the first time in 60 years, and it came down from the roof. I live streamed with Tasha over there, the sort of Frank, we'll introduce those later. And yeah, it was a really humbling moment really, because it was at that point, I think 3 solid years of work to try and actually make sure it would be removed. And it was a great expense, and it was great. The way they made it was amazing to watch, and just see it in pieces and how they put it all together was really fascinating. So I'm looking forward to sharing that story more with you as well. AJ block, gents. So Paul actually worked there from 65, so very new and early. It was 69. It was opened in 64, and it was first broke ground in July 62. And at the time they were in V block, which was very Edwardian yard, probably imagine, with its parquet flooring, it's quite old fashioned, up on Kimpton Road. So this was going to be based on the GM Tech Centre design, which was opened between 59 and the early 60s. Really, really ultra mid-century modern, like incredibly modern. This is America at its absolute mechanised behemoth. And General Motors was bringing that influence over to Vauxhall through David Jones, the then design styling manager and styling director later. So he hit the new building where they were going to design all the Vauxhall cars from then had to be ultra modern. They were thinking 20, 30 years into the future of Vauxhall cars. So the environment was literally nothing Luton had ever seen before. It was incredibly modern, very American, very, very big, very imposing.
Very chic.
Very secret. And yeah,
You can get to see it anyway.
Exactly. And so for its impressive facade, nobody could get past the guard at the front. A few facts: it was 323,000 square foot across 4 stories, with 672 precast concrete cladded units, which we had to watch them try and take them down, didn't we? That was crazy. And in today's money, if you were to do such a project, it would cost you about £46 million of investment.
Yeah.
So that's in today's money. So Prologis bought the site for 25 million, and they're going to spend a bit more than that to do it. So they're still not even spending that amount of money on the new development that Vauxhall did back then. So it's completely ultra modern. You would go from a sketch to a running, driving car straight out of the back, off to the test tracks, off to the roads. Wayne himself used to design things on sick bags on transatlantic flights, including the nose cones for Aero and the concept car Equus, which is on the banner on the front. And we've had copies of those made, so you can see all the verified by secretary as his annotations as well. So Janice couldn't be here today, bless her, but she's been a great help to us as well. And yeah, it was literally a world of dream making, wasn't it really? You could imagine anything you wanted and it would be made in life size, in full, absolutely perfectly. Down to the grills, they were handmade grills and lights, and hand etched all the lenses for the light post types, such as that one. They would have done all of that by hand in the styling department, so it was really interesting. Apparently, the styling department was so private that 2,000 people worked in the building, but only 140 maybe worked in the styling department. But Paul was a bit of mover and shaker through all of it, weren't you? You got very special privileged access, didn't you?
Well, it's in '69 when I started. The styling manager at the time was David Jones, and it's they could talk to us as long as they come to us, but we couldn't go to talk to them. It changed when the managing directors were changed over. There's a guy called Bob Price who started off, and then with Wayne Cherry together, it became more open. But, sorry, I should say that I used to work I'm a commercial artist, or I was, and I used to do everything for engineering presentations. And it wasn't until Bob Price came along he decided it'd be nice if you could work for other departments as well. So that's why not only did I work for sort of over the road and engineering people over there, but also for design, and which involved me having a special thing like a pass. I used to use this pass going down that corridor, sorry, that corridor there, and then the world opened up to me, and that's when I first saw the wheel. And it's, I tell you, it's like going into another place, going into styling, or as it was then styling, because it's renamed design by Wayne. But yeah, I think that was good. I enjoyed that. But it was a heaven, was it?
I was going to say when
it's called Paris Surprises.
And
that's actually looking down the corridor
towards the styling research vehicle. That would be in the mid-70s. And what's quite interesting is Andrew Durden, who's the archivist of Vauxhall. He also, I don't think ever really went into the styling department until later on, but he goes, it was the man from Uncle Dor, it was so unassuming and you just saw people casually going, casually passing. It was just a brand, very plain, wasn't it? It was very unceremonial, because you couldn't have the wrong people going in there. Were you caught looking there, Dave?
Looking down the corridor one day, whatever you do, don't go down there. Don't even try and get through the doors at one.
Unless you've got a special pass.
Yes.
And it was on the third floor. This was on the third, and a car park on the third floor, which held how many vehicles?
I think about 4,000 square foot.
Talk about the remember we did a whole range of photographs of the Vauxhall vehicles, right from the Chevan to the big truck here.
The whole range on the roof.
Quite a big area.
So nobody could see in it at all.
And when they built the flats at Park Street, they had to send someone up on a crane with a camera to see if they could see what they were up to, because if they could, they were going to put in a complaint. To tell them, no, you can't do that. Because they had a lot of power then, didn't they?
They did.
They had a lot of power. And you briefly went into the styling department, didn't you?
Once, 39 years, and I only got in there for about 15 minutes.
And that wasn't even that deep into it,
No,
was
it's
it?
only the first door. So yeah.
Yeah, so
Is it still like that in design, car design departments?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it?
So yes.
Yeah, a lot of my friends and some younger graduates are in that world, and we talk to each other, but we have to be in like an open field with nobody around, and then all the secrets start coming out. But we can't talk to people around people. So there's all sorts of crazy things going on out there, which I'll sort of touch on a bit later, because the world out of design is changing. So yeah, it's still very much wink wink, nudge nudge. There's no sharing those things anymore. But the wheel is actually quite interesting. So this ultra-modern world obviously had to inspire people to think differently and think in the future and think ahead and be much more, they say that people who work there live in today's world, but they also live in tomorrow's world. So they're coming out of this building, going home to their normal world and their vivas and their very ordinary sort of family life, but then when they go in there, they're thinking of things that you can't even imagine. And that's the sort of difference of that sort of world. So obviously you need to be inspired. So 3 art pieces were commissioned. One was a fiberglass copper-plated griffin that used to be at the entrance of the styling department, done by David Jones. We don't know where that's gone. I think it was in the Heritage Centre.
John England's got it.
As it
Guys, you'll have to speak up a little bit. We can only just hear you.
And another one was a brass mobile, which was at the end of the long corridor on the opposite side towards that end. And the third was commissioned by Brian Adcock, who was the, what's his title? Director. He's kind of the operator.
It's just, I don't know what it is. No idea. Just,
I think he was quite.
He started with on the design side with the gun looked after the trucks, and Adcock was in charge of the cars.
Yeah, and they kind of set the, say they shared an office, and he basically envisaged this enormous screen divide between the auditorium and the corridor. What it cost, we don't have a clue. But it looks very expensive and it looks very, very posh. So I look forward to delving deep into that. It's really fascinating. So when it came to being inspired, obviously you've got all of the environment, you've got all the ideas, you've got these new people coming in, you've got established people, you've got one generation changes to another. I'd say there'd be a huge shift between when David Jones left, who I think was the longest serving design manager ever. I think it was 37 years was his tenure, something like that, yeah. And then Wayne Cherry was an assistant to Ed Taylor, and then Wayne Cherry became the final design director of Vauxhall Cars before he moved to Opal and they closed the department. So in a wild way, we'll go on to a presentation now about the wheel and its making by Fran, who is the daughter of the maker. And if I can hand you over to you, Fran.
Okay, let's do
Warm welcome, please, for Fran. As with all design stories, this one is really interesting, how it came together.
The mouse wants to get out, I think. The mouse wants to get out.
It's jumping around a bit, but
Might be good as well.
okay, well we'll work with this thing. Okay, so yes, I'm Fran, and in fact, happy birthday, Dad, because his birthday was yesterday and he'd be 113 years old. Yes, today.
What time?
What a time.
Timing, yeah.
So, this is him, a young man, working on the windows. Oh, I just can tell you first of all. This presentation, it's only short, is based on a longer talk I gave to the Ely Stained Glass Museum about my father's work and as a stained glass artist. I started researching some of his windows years ago, which eventually resulted in my book, A Life in Glass, which is over there as a copy open, or if you'd like to have a look
It's
later
amazing,
on.
it's fantastic.
Okay, so here he is, Dad, Geoffrey Harper. There's a range of skills and artistic work that he developed throughout his life. And as you can see, I'm not going to read them all out, but we'll be looking at some of them. And he undertook professionally. This briefly is an outline of where he trained. He took an apprenticeship in Birmingham when he was living at the time. And Goldsmith School of Art, which actually my niece's daughter is now at. She's a student there. And I was a student there as well, but it wasn't in the art department. Portrait painting, things. Okay, so here he is as a baby. Geoffrey Harper was born in 1913 in Wolverhampton. He was the second of 4 children, living at Williamson's Hotel in Bow Lane, London, where his father was the proprietor. His mother just gave birth to him in the family's house in Wolverhampton. This Mrs. Williamson's, which is in Bow Lane. It used to be the Luton Made house in London. And so his brother, who was born here, lived, it's gone off.
HDMI connection.
Should we try another one?
That's
That's not jumping, really. Don't touch. Don't breathe.
That's it.
I'll stand here and agree.
Oh, this is not how it's supposed to be. Anyway, so he came from a very talented family. His mother, this is an example of the embroiderers she worked at. And, right, family gathering in London. Yes, and this is, just want to point this out. I don't know if you can see it. The little child at the front is my brother. Two of my brothers are here today. Over there, Dominic, when he was, you're probably about 1 or 2, and Benedict.
And
My niece Tasha is here as well. Anyway, that's my slide. It's an example of drawings and sketches. This is an oil painting of my mother when she was 18. And so he's a very talented artist. And this one I have on my wall now, hanging in my house. So he formed a partnership with Robert Hendra, and who actually made the wheel. And this is a brief history of when they met. It goes way back to the 1930s. In fact, my father was working for a famous designer, stained glass designer at the time, called Hugh Easton. And he started working with him in the early 30s. And then the war came in, and then during the war he worked in air raid protection, my dad. And then after the war, he took up working with Hugh Easton, who was managed to get the commissions for the windows. Dad actually painted and designed, together with Easton and on his own with his partner, over 300 windows in churches up and down the country. So my research was based on just a few of these. By no means have I seen them all. The partnership they had a monogram, so every window that you look at stained glass in the churches, you'll see the designer's name and a monogram. And this is the two Hendra and Harper, with Robert and Geoffrey at the bottom. It changes slightly. The studios they worked from, initially, when Dad joined up with Hugh Easton and he first met Robert Hendra, was in the 30s, going back a long time, because Hugh Easton had a studio in Kensington. But then they moved to Harpenden in 47, and they were at the studio called Little Gables, and then in 58, yes, they moved to the studio along the High Street. This is Dad, he's here in the middle with Hugh Easton and his brother, and then these are apprentices. The apprentices worked in the studio because making a stained glass window is a huge long process, so they needed lots of people to work on it, and it took weeks and months and sometimes even years. This is taken in Harpenden. And here, also the glaziers. These are the glaziers to make a window, Hawes and Harris, which Dad called the old boys. Their premises were just situated behind Dad's studio in Harpenden, so it was very central. And so that's where they had their kiln and they did the firing and the fixing. It was a hive of activity in the went over for several decades. Yes, Hughes and Harris. There is Dad here on the left. On the far side is Robert Hendra, and in the middle is a famous portrait painter and artist, Gerald Coles, who occasionally worked with them to help with commissions and collaborate with them. I'm not sure what they're holding up. Here's Here's a picture of the inside of the studio. I think this is from Little Gables, the older one, studio. And they're all at work on various aspects of windows. And here again, this is the outside. The building in Harpenden still stands because it's Victorian. It's probably a listed building, I'm sure. It's behind the George, if any of you know Harpenden, it's behind the George Hotel. And the studio was down the alleyway because it was an old coaching inn. In fact, it's dated back to 1507, I believe. And then you had to walk up the stairway and through a glass corridor in the air to reach, because the studio was in the top there where those big windows are. And this is Chris Watkins here, who actually was one of the apprentices that Dad worked with, along with another Adam Ritchie at this time, who was a stained glass artist in his own right. So we had a visit some time ago now. These are sketches Dad did. Also picture portraits, that's me when I was a child. Gives you a variety. And this is some of the work. Now this is famous, but probably the most prestigious, I'm sure, is the most prestigious work that Dad worked on with Easton and his partners was at Westminster Abbey. This is the famous Battle of Britain window, which is in the Henry VII Chapel. And it's a massive window. It's 48 lights. The lights are the individual pane glass that you see. And it took just 18 months to make. It's amazing because they worked so hard. So this work would have been done at Little Gables in Harpenden. And there was 4 other windows also they did in Westminster Abbey. You can go and see, and the Islip Chapel, the nurse's window, and various other ones. This is the 7th and the school chapel. It's just an example of a few. The 7 Ages of Man are beautiful little windows at eye level. Dad often based the, he used us as models, basically. And that's me as a baby. And that here is the schoolboy creeping unwillingly to school, which is my brother Adrian, who actually lives in Canada. There's another one. You can see that. You can see this little thing. That's a little oil painting I had. And this is the one that showed the baby. There's my brother Adrian, pastel that he did when he was young. The Bull Hotel in Royston. This is a variety of different work. This is in the bar there. Unfortunately, one of them's been smashed because it's very low level. But they're beautiful little windows, and these were with Hendra. There's the Charles II hiding in the tree. Austin Friars Dutch Church is in the city near Bow Lane. Hull, he did a mural and windows in Hull, a mural of the Docklands, and he was away for quite a few weeks in the summer then. He used to come back at the weekend, but he was away all week working on these windows, installing them and all the rest of it. Hilbert, he also did, yes, if you look at that side, ceiling panel of the sanctuary. How did we get up there? I don't know. I don't think he was up there. I think they were done in the studio and then passed out to the window. This is Wellington College we visited, because this is Hugh Easton's old school, and he was commissioned to do some windows in the chapel, which are here for the schoolboys. And apparently the schoolboys love this one, from the fires of hell coming out. I think I researched, I was so fortunate in my family in lots of ways. I mean, it's a burden in some ways too, because I've got all the diaries. I've got my father's diaries going back to the 30s, and lots of letters and other things to base my research on. And these are some of the watercolours. Some of them are lost now. This rabbit I love. He got the idea, this little watercolour, of looking at the bottom of his cup, the tea leaves at the bottom of his cup, and he said they look like a rabbit, so he did this watercolour. This is very different from the work of the designer Easton. This is very modern, and I think this is quite striking. We went to see it. It really shows up in the dark with the in it, and I think it's non-figurative. It's very different from the rest of the work. St Luke's Church, Chelsea. This church is in Wembley. These are beautiful little windows too. They're so much easier to see the windows at eye level. So I would recommend, if any of you are interested in going to have a look at stained glass in churches, to get a pair of binoculars, because then you can just sit there and you can see all the features and the details. Also the glass mosaic he did. So this is in the porch of the church up in the Midlands. And these little pieces of glass were left over, the cuttings and the bits and pieces, fragments from making the windows. So we put them together to form a mosaic. And later on, Dad also made tables out of them. Book illustrations. Dad and his brother Anthony were commissioned to illustrate these two books, Rain by Rain, Book by Book, by Stephen Ushaw, which I know took him from his diary absolutely ages, because he's so painstaking and he was such a perfectionist. I had that beautiful watercolour, the birds, in my house. There he is in the field with the family. And I just put this in because the 60s we had the C&D meetings in our house. I mean, it shows you how old they are. And we used to go on rallies, and there he is there with a yellow scarf, and that's my sister Susan. So we often used to go on the C&D rallies. And towards the end, about 64, he started having his own commissions, Dad, and he was making the Stations of the Cross. I haven't said yet, but he was from a Catholic background. He was very religious. I mean, he used to make us, we had to go to confession every Saturday afternoon, and then go to church, go to Mass every Sunday, all throughout my childhood. And I think these really spoke to him because he was deeply religious, and I think he really did get a lot out of making these. He did them himself, and when the partnership was folding, so a lot of these were done in the back room of our house, and he was cutting out, this is wrought iron, copper, and he was welding, not in our house I don't think, I can't remember that. So he made 14 Stations of the Cross for a couple of churches. There he is there. He's always got this little, it's not a cigarette. Well, he used to smoke all the time. Everybody seemed to smoke in the 60s. And then, because I think he thought it was, we were told that it was better to smoke cigars, he moved on to Tom Thumb cigars. So that's the journal, the British Society of Master Glass Painters. They wrote a little thing up. And there we have the wheel. Now, shall I just say about
Crack on.
the wheel, because I haven't mentioned that, because
You speak more elegantly than me, and I'm electromagnetically charged over it.
the wheel, I didn't know anything about the wheel when I was growing up, apart from my mother mentioned that there's a book, he did some work for Vauxhall car motors, and she thinks there was a thing, but there was no pictures, I couldn't find anything in the archives, absolutely nothing at all. So that's why there's nothing much in my book at all. So this wheel, I remember some talk also of slab glass. Used to talk about that, slab glass, set in concrete. This was a new concept at the time. There was there's Buckfast Abbey, it's got those beautiful slab glass windows in, you go down there, and other places. Because the traditional process of making windows is to use lead. I didn't mention the leading, but the artist, Dad, always there, when we went into the studio on the wall, the layout tables of glass, they did the leading as well. Not only did they cut the glass, but they also put the leading in, which is what before firing. So, when I first looked doing my research, I couldn't find any mention of the Vauxhall wheel. And it was only when Adam King out of the blue, contacted me
Like
via the Hartland History website, actually it was. The Hartland History website is very good, and told me about the wheel, that it was still there at Vauxhall. So I was really surprised, and it was like a eureka moment to know that it still existed and it hadn't been destroyed, and that I would be able to see it. Consequently, I carefully checked my father's diaries again, and I found a few cursory lines in his diaries, which I will just... So it started, they were in 1963, June the 12th. So it just says, 10:30, Brian Adcock came with architect to see the Vauxhall job. So I think it was you. You weren't sure what his title was. So we're not sure what his title was. He's obviously an important person.
You just float about with it.
It's important, but we don't exactly know.
So then I've got August, Bob and I, that's Robert Henry and I, went to Hetley's in the afternoon to select the glass for Vauxhall. So Hetley's is a big glass, stained glass firm in London, where they chose a lot of their glass, because the glass is 1.25 inches thick.
Yes, probably about like
So
that.
enormously thick, and normally for a window you wouldn't have it anything like this. So they picked out the colours and the glass, and then, so it says October, they worked late finishing the last cement facing on the Vauxhall wheel, and in December they went over to Vauxhall's at Luton to check on the work but still not ready. And then later on they spent the day, it says, pointing up the Vauxhall wheel and completed the conference room side at 8 p.m. It says, Wimpy's man took photo and promised to send a copy. So I had no idea that it was between the corridor and the design room, the meeting room. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know how big it was. I was really surprised when Adam said it's this size, 8 metres diameter.
8.5 foot.
Because, yes, I thought that it was... so then I'm getting into 64 here, May 64, second. It says 2 hours visit with Bob to Vauxhall New Building to see our wheel at Mr. Adcock's invitation. No publicity till probably September. So November, Vauxhall wheel, Bob doing write-up for the Master of Glass Painters Journal. And Betty, that's my mum, typed out Bob's script, the Vauxhall wheel, and delivered it to him, which actually I haven't got with me. But, it doesn't matter. So just a few cursory lines. That's all the ornamentations, absolutely no pictures at all. And also I didn't realise, I didn't know about the secrecy involved in the design in the department, but it still goes on apparently. Anyway, I sent this to Adam, who's been incredibly industrious. Yes, thank you so much, Adam, for all your hard work in saving this window. I was very excited when I saw pictures, and I imagined it as I thought it would be a perfectly round small wheel, a conventional wheel, with proper spokes, and was not prepared for what I saw, because this looks really strange. I mean, apparently a lot of people, yeah, I love it, but maybe not everybody feels that. It's very strange, and I don't know where he got the ideas from, but I think it's fantastic. The glass, yes, the glass substance. The chosen colours, I think the colours are beautiful too, and somehow peaceful. And obviously it must have been wonderful to see it in situ, with the light shining through it. And I've said at the bottom, because I wrote this sometime, I can't wait to see it in situ after 63 years. However, I never saw it in situ, because on the morning I was due to come, my niece Tasha came, but I was just going to have this ghastly operation. Anyway, I've recovered from that. So it was taken all down and abolished in pieces, but it's to Adam that we owe all the thanks for preserving it and having it arranged so it was taken down, because it was very strangely built. I mean, between these two walls, you know, and they're all that concrete.
All the weight, it all locks bricks together, basically the top of the piece is the keystone. And when they removed it, they had to do it in a very specific way to hoist it out. Gary and Darren were the two builders who were nominated to do it. They weren't any older than me, I would say, and they were very keen to do it. They knew exactly what they were doing. Everyone had an opinion on how to take it out. You just pull it out. No, you've got to method it, and they literally methodically did it. So I didn't get to see them pull out the first stones, but Dave did get to see. So he witnessed that for me. I had to work. But I did get to see it come down from the roof. So they were hoisting it down from the roof in pieces. So every time the truck came past with a single piece, I took all the photos around the edge. It's all got iron bars all around it to tie it all together, to lock it all together, and then the brickwork weight just literally keeps it together. The builder said that you wouldn't pass any building regs building the wall today, but they had to build it with the bricks upside down to give it more strength. But I don't know what Prologis is going to do. They might not have to tell the building inspector what they've done to do that again. But yeah, it was really interesting, and I only found out who made it, because to me it was Vauxhall. I didn't know, there was no insignia on it, I don't know anything about glass. The only way I found out about it was Linda, who was at BWI, said, I've got a box of things for you that you might be really interested in. We don't want it eventually, but keep it with us and we'll show you. I was like, okay, so I'm going through, it's all electrical drawings for the building and ducting and drains. I'm like, this is really boring. And then I come across the one picture that's the main style of the parliament. The one thing that absolutely took me away and how I found it all out was the original architect's drawing of the wall with the wheel inside it. So that's the original one. And I opened up on the table and I ran out. I went, Linda, look what I found. Look what's in there. She goes, oh my God. And we were looking at it all, reading it all. And at the very bottom, I think it's near the bottom, it says Messrs. Hendra and Harper, Harpenden. Somewhere sort of around there. So that's the only way I found that.
Tiny, right?
Sort of tiny, perfect. There you go.
Size.
And then 4, that's the only way I knew.
It's so detailed, isn't it?
It's so beautifully detailed, and it tells you all the thickness of the bricks and how the form is going to be. But if I didn't find this drawing, I would never have known who made this window. And then I did my research and I found Fran's book, found the address. Like, well, I've got to tell her this is here because she must have information. So I only had a postal address, so I did an old-fashioned thing. I wrote a letter, printed off some photos of the ones I took, and then sent a post, and then that's it. We met a couple of years ago, and we've been trying to make sure the story's told, haven't we?
Yes,
And keep it going, and hopefully
doing a fantastic job.
we've got to get it built, rebuilt next. It's another part of the equation. So, but yeah, we've seen all the process.
So I'd just like to say about my dad, because I think he'd be really proud that we're doing this. Adam's worked so hard, and that you've come along to hear about it today. And because he tragically died when he was only 53, he had a heart attack in 1966.
Just 2 years after this.
Yes, and they leaving 6 children, and so it was very tragic. And
it was probably at a time as well when he was really getting into very modern
really,
art as well.
Yes, he was getting into modern art. He had his own commissions because the partnership broke up with Robert Hendra, which is very sad. Also, a lot of people who died at the same around the time. Designer, Hugh Easton died in 65. Dad died in 66. Robert Hendra a couple of years later, and we were very friendly with their family too. And it all sort of collapsed. Nobody wanted to take on the studio in my family, even though there's several artists in my family. I mean, stained glass was really messy and long and protracted and all the rest of it, so it was really difficult. So it all folded, but the studio is still there. I think it's just empty because it's, as I said, it's a listed building. But there's so many memories that go with it too.
And thanks to the combined efforts, that's going to live on as well. So, thank you very much.
So where is it currently?
Currently it's in a storage box on the site. So they're just waiting to start building and get their buildings going, and it's going to be in its own dedicated building nearby, not far away from where it was originally. So
Will we be able to see it?
that's what their plan is at the moment. So they are going to plan to make sure the public have access to it, because nobody did they? So it was only exclusively for the styling department staff.
No, I went apprenticeship in that building, I've never ever seen it yet.
Hmm?
I did 4 years apprenticeship in that building and I've never seen a window.
There you go. So people got so
No chance to
close.
see it yet.
Exactly. So hopefully it will be in the next couple of years. So right then, we'll pop ourselves back in and talk about some work.
That with the...
We're going to talk a tiny bit more about the work done by Vauxhall now. These gents.
I just have to say I was on that CMD lunch.
It's a project I'm not going to take on personally, I'm afraid. So the styling department work, the work that was done in there was actually incredibly innovative. They were really ahead of their thinking. I think how early do you think fuel injection engines were? 72, 73? There definitely was one in Bullet, wasn't there? So, and that didn't really come into play until a good 10 years plus later. And I think they even still have carburetors right up until the late 80s, didn't they? So that was a trend. They were really thinking really far ahead. And if you got to see the styling research vehicle that Tony, I can't believe you managed to get that to come home. That was fantastic. That was the level of thinking that Vauxhall design was at. If you were driving to the motor show in Viva with your bell-bottom flares, Wayne was thinking streamlines, future speed, aerodynamics. So the work was incredible, and they even innovated things that you don't really think about. So the JJL minibus, it was actually a Vauxhall idea as well, and your dad was heavily involved in that, wasn't he, Greg?
Yeah, the production line in.
Yeah.
Before they made a single vehicle, they scrapped it.
So you think all these small buses that go around now today, this is 78?
1978, and if you think of the 80s, they had little opera stopper buses. So Vauxhall were 10, 15 years in front. Production line all in, 4 running examples actually on the road. British Blues it at Marshalls at Cambridge did the bodies, Dunstable did the chassis and the engines. They scrapped it. That's what they did. After all that money. There's still one running around.
There's still one about
There's
something.
still one around somewhere.
But it's just fascinating.
When you think about it, it's how modern buses are made now. Engine at the back, you just stretch them, shorten them, you just
Great big.
do it, extending the chassis and the wiring and things. Yeah,
No, really far.
it's way ahead of its time.
Even in the everyday things we think of, they were thinking completely differently. They were just a
Even
different
that,
breed of people.
was it earlier than that with the gearboxes? HA gearboxes down there as well. We went all the way through the HC, the Chevettes, all designed in the early 60s or earlier than that, some of them, in that building.
Yeah, it wasn't designed in the styling department.
That's right.
Or there's drawing boards and drawing boards. That's what my dad did. He was a designer.
The front wheel drive engines as well, didn't they? That didn't develop
In the 60s. In the 60s.
And,
In the German style.
So how do you differentiate styling and design? So styling's bodywork, right? I mean,
styling is making engineering less ugly.
Yeah.
Design is actually the two working harmoniously together. Where you have a nice coffee between you and solve a problem.
They would put engine covers, anything, literally make anything look nicer.
I can't hear, sorry.
So they make anything look nicer, it would be engine covers, whatever. Okay, not exactly transmissions, engines in detail, but they would commission if they wanted something with more power.
So not really anything to do with the mechanics as such. So, okay, I've got you now. Yeah, all right. So design is make it look nice. But the design side of things is much more about the unit basically.
It's more holistic.
And the purpose.
It looks good and
The prototype was made in
that's the sort of
styling. My husband worked in styling, and he worked on the Chevette. He worked on that car,
styling.
the SRV, that van he worked on.
Blimey, that's a real celebrity.
Sorry?
A real celebrity in the room.
So what was that? The CF van.
That van.
And my
That's a
father-in-law
truck, yeah.
probably worked with your husband.
This is what Vauxhall designers are like. You don't actually, they're like spies. Designers are like MI6 spies. You don't actually know if anyone is one. And the trouble is, they're always watching you. So whatever you do, they're watching you. They're watching how you sit down, they're watching how you behave. You don't know who anyone is, and they'll go back and they'll create something perfect for you. That's just the world that they live in. And like you say, you go out into the public, and you say, where do you work at Vauxhall? They'll never say styling, because there might be, you have to be very private about that. So it's only now that you guys are actually telling these stories, and that's to my benefit and luck, really, because nobody would. Because it
You
was
didn't have
so.
to sign a secrets act then, or anything like that.
Well, no, but gentleman's agreement and all that, that's not a problem.
As I said, it's on the third floor. They were really pleased when Luton Airport took off, because then they couldn't get helicopters taking photographs now.
And when you
to
keep
the
his cars
airspace.
in. When you keep his cars in there.
Well, the commercial vehicle development integrated into this.
Yeah. Together. They did the TM truck was probably one of the very first intercontinental sleep
I just remember the sort of Bedford vans and things like that.
Yeah. They did
all of it.
Yeah, it's in the TL, so.
TL, yeah. Because I don't know if it's true, of course, because you've never known these stories are true. But when they did the TM, which was basically
What does TM stand for?
Oh, that's a new
Just a truck series.
Okay. It's just sort of a designation, yeah. It's a designation of the truck. So they basically start with T. Or truck.
The cars were the same. They had an F-type Victor, then an F, which is an FA, and then an FB, FC, FD. So it's as the design evolved, it got a new internal really designation.
And when they were coming up with some of these great ideas, they had the TM concept truck, which had a sleeper at the back behind the driver, which is quite new, a microwave. It's 1978. Had a microwave, a sink, and everything for the driver to be comfortable to do international driving. So that was quite a new concept at the time in '78. And David Farrow, who was a clay modeller in the studio, he said that Wayne caught someone sleeping in there. So I don't know if that's true, but they were very advanced thinking on that.
Yeah. Remember these trucks were on the third floor.
Yeah.
So they had the biggest lift you've ever seen in your life in the corner, didn't they?
Yeah, big cars.
25 tons.
Try and haul
They
these
take
vehicles
these
up.
big lorry cabs and everything up and down.
And there's a tight gap between the actual styling building and another secret studio that was even more secret than the secret studio. Where the TM literally is a couple of inches away from the walls and it's trying to be put through. So Equus was designed in that studio, Studio 5, which was in the corner. So the management were over there being, talked to, while they were secretly working on other things like race cars and the DTV race cars and in the other studio with John Taylor. And a boat. I think John Taylor designed a boat in there. There you go. And some skis.
Really?
Yeah, they did all sorts of projects that were not to do with Vauxhall. Well, they were to do with Vauxhall, but not.
Do you think the designers were well paid?
Well, Jeff Lawson used to drive a Corvette, so I imagine he was pretty well to do. What was it he used to call them? Shirley Temples? The hair.
Shirley Temples, yeah.
With the hair and
designers of a long flock.
Yeah, long flock hair and really nice ties.
One cherry out of Ferrari.
Yeah, he's still got that, hasn't he? He's 275 GTV.
There's a story about that. My father-in-law told me. My father-in-law was Peter Gerling, and he went out to Italy.
Yeah.
Wayne brought the Ferrari. They came back together in the UK. It went into a garage at Wayne's. He took it apart and hung it all around the garage, and it stayed there until he had it shipped to America, to a garage, where he put it back together.
And that could be why it's in his man cave.
Yeah, it was hidden up the airport at one point.
Fantastic. So Peter Gerling actually would have been sharing an office with Brian Adcock,
Yes.
who created the wheel. So yeah, do you know what Brian Adcock's title was?
No, I mean,
It was very important. I think Peter Gerling was Russell Wayne, and then it was Brian Adcock in the shared office. So.
he didn't talk very much about work, but one of the stories I've just shared.
I can't think why.
He went, when we go out for dinner, you could never let a napkin near him or a pen.
Oh,
Because he'd sit there and he'd be eating steak and chips or whatever, and all of a sudden you'd see,
yeah.
can't show you, and he put it in his pocket.
I think Janice used to call them snowflakes as well. Because Wayne used to do that as well. That's what designers do. You never stop thinking. You're always thinking about something.
And I gave a box of Peter's briefcase, so I recently had to take the family house part, and there is a briefcase that she has with everything. There is a sick bag with something on it, and it's just full of drawings, photographs,
Beautiful.
memos about you need to take 3 inches off this and 2 inches there and that. And they have the suitcase, and I will gladly give it to you
I would
to
love to
be
see it.
able
I would
to.
absolutely love to see it.
And one of his drawings is in the exhibition.
Yeah, I had a really, I was this far away from it, and everyone's like, what are you doing? I was like, I've got to look at the pen work, it's amazing. It's just, they don't do such hand work in studios anymore, it's digital. You might start drawing, but you draw on a digital pad. You don't really draw with a pen anymore unless you don't have your equipment with you. So how you create such an incredible cars like all of these, they were all done by hand, they were all done by eye. They were artists of an industrial scale, where it had to look good. If it didn't look good, it wouldn't sell. If it didn't sell, the company affected thousands and thousands of jobs. So there was a lot of responsibility on the shoulders of the creative teams and engineers in the building. So
Were you able to contact any relatives of Brian Adams?
Yes, yeah, I did. They sent me a couple of photos, but sadly he passed away as well. Malcolm was his name. They had a few things. Very tragically, when they cleared out Brian Adcock's house, I only found the family by having to go to plead to the funeral directors who did Brian Adcock's funeral to give them information on my behalf, which they very gladly did. So I managed to find his obituary and who the funeral director was. So that's how I found that out. And then they emailed me some photos of him. He used to meet a lot of dignitaries, so he's got pictures of him with the Prince of Edinburgh, Duke of Edinburgh, sorry, and Margaret Thatcher, and a really big group photo where nobody seems to recognise anybody in it, so I don't know where they've come from. But yeah, he's very tall, I believe. He's a very tall man. Very artistic, very creative. We went to the Royal College of Art as well, so he was obviously very in tune with that world as well. And he used to do recruitment, so he used to go to all the colleges and degree shows, and he used to recruit for Vauxhall, and then they would come for invitation for interview with Wayne, or it would have been Wayne, all the ones I'm familiar with. And then he was sort of a talent spotter as well, to keep Vauxhall's momentum going. So yeah.
Talking about Jeff Lawson, he went to the Royal College of Art in London as well. And you mentioned about saving companies. Of course, he went from Vauxhall to Jaguar after Ford took over Jaguar, which I think was in the 90s. And Jaguar was going down the toilet, there's no question. And his designs put it back on the road again.
The mid-90s sort of XK8s and X300s, yeah.
He died young as well, sadly.
XJ220 he worked on, yeah. And what's really interesting is a lot of people who went to work at Jaguar interviewed at Vauxhall and never got jobs there, which is because Jaguar were going down the toilet. Not so much in the early 80s, but in that sort of period. And a lot of my own lecturers got interviewed by Wayne, and I didn't know this until I put it on LinkedIn, and they actually told me. And they
a lot of your lecturers, did you say?
My university lecturers were interviewed by Wayne.
Oh, okay.
And one of them went on to do the interior of the XJ220 with Jeff, and then the other, Chris Johnson, went on to a really good career, I think more to do with work with brands like Rover and more in the Midlands sort of direction. But he did tell me a really funny story when he went for an interview. Wayne had a round table in his office with some chairs, and he went to put his portfolio on it, and in the very middle was a button which opened the door to his office, and the door just flung open. So Wayne's Star Wars type office was incredibly modern, wasn't it? Very fantastic, and all designed and made in the studios. They could make everything. They made everything. And the clay modelers themselves were actually really interested. They came from the hat industry because they knew how to create 3D forms.
The what industry?
The hat industry, the hat builders, hat blockers.
They made blocks, wooden blocks.
To make hats over. So out of timber.
Yeah, it was a big hat making industry.
Yeah. So they then translated those skills into the clay modelling cards, so they could actually interpret 3D forms. So it's actually really fascinating how they transfer skills. So I was very pleased about that. And but unfortunately, we're going to have to start talking about some cars, aren't we? Because Vauxhall design was big on aerodynamics.
When was the switch coming from, obviously, like F-types, all the Victors coming, and then there was a switch coming because obviously the Mark 1 Cavalier and the Opel connection. So
right,
guys were going from experimental to Germany in the late 60s, my father being one of them.
Yeah.
And then it all, I actually worked in that building, by the way, I'll talk to you about that later. But
I look forward to that.
Yeah, and you're lucky to have that window, we'll talk about that later. So, anyway, so anyway, but yeah, and then there was a big switch because obviously the cousin of Opel there, and then the moving away, and I thought it was the flats that actually, they use that as an excuse to take photographs to move it, but obviously that's a fallacy as well.
I don't think that's the case. I think it's cost cutting, wasn't it? Basically, they had to make it more cost effective. Vauxhall and Opel designing their own cars.
Yeah, but the point is, we had that building, and the people like yourself and everybody that was in there was the absolute.
I completely maintain that. I don't know why they didn't do design here and make cars in Germany.
Precisely that. Yeah.
It would have been a perfect balance of both. But I wasn't even born when they closed, so I couldn't bang on the door on that one. But yeah, I would completely agree because the work with these guys own between them 4 cars, but the 3 concept cars that Wayne personally developed and Brown, and the thinking and the ideas in them are just incredible. I think the most me meeting you was quite interesting, wasn't it, Dave? Because that was. I'd done all my presentation and all my research, and then Dave popped up on Facebook with his little profile picture of Aero, and he goes, "Oh, I own this car." I was like, "I need to talk to you." and then I dropped him a message, and then it was February, wasn't it? So I was like, "It's cold and sunny. We'll go for a nice coffee." Went to Luton Made, that's where all the cars were photographed, especially that one. And I thought, it'd be nice. And I'm waiting outside my flat, waiting for him to come pick me up. So I'll pick you up. I was like, "Brilliant." And I'm like, "Noise. That doesn't sound like a normal car." Even it's February, there's salt on the roads. And then just see Aero blasting up my road. And I'm like, "Jesus, Dave, what are you doing?" And we went for a coffee, didn't we? And that's how we came about. And then we just met every couple of weeks. And then eventually... Special parking area, yeah. Oh, that was a good one.
I always have special allotted parking area, he says to the guy who came out with...
We've got one prototype there.
He said, "What's your name?" I said, "Adam King." He said, "Oh, would the parking space be there then?" There was just a A-frame with Adam King.
Right, yeah, that's my name. Park there. And,
Great name.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, well, I obviously don't know my own name, so I didn't see the sign with it on there. But yeah, that was really interesting. And we spoke a lot about how the design developed and how Vauxhall was really innovative with its aerodynamics and Wayne. And we got in touch with Wayne, and he got a copy off the book, didn't he? And then you introduced me to Greg as well. And then we've been unshakable, really. We've tried to celebrate as much as we can with events to bring all the cars together at once, and we rather than in 1s and 2s. So every time we get a chance, we do bring them together. We make sure we're on hand to tell everyone about them. But we've got some interesting facts and theories about some of them. Do you want to talk about Bullet first? Chronological?
Yeah.
How we do for time?
It was the first of Wayne Cherry's exercise into aerodynamics. It was based on a bog standard Magnum estate. Took it into design, styling, whichever you want to call it, and converted it into this glorious, what would you call it, sort of executive estate car, really sporty estate car, presumably to complement the next phase of high performance Forenza, which was going with more lights and fuel injection engine. But yeah, it's all sorts of stuff on it, one-off bits and pieces, fuel injected engine, 5-speed box, all complete leather trim inside.
Speakers in the headrest.
Speakers in the headrest, which I believe Mazda are just starting to do in their MX-5s, yeah, 50 years later.
Yes,
I mean, some of the things, electric aerial, some of these things don't sound that grand now, but 50 odd years ago, 1974, it was quite sort of quite something to see all this stuff put in a car at that level. And it was photographed here, there. I don't know whether it went to any motor shows or not. I can't recall.
We don't know if it did, do we?
Don't know
We do
really
know
if it did, but we do know it stayed on the fleet for an amazing 11 years, which was unheard of, really. But fortunately, it survived. All the fuel injection project was all cancelled. They scrapped the engine, but someone had the presence and thought to put an engine back in it, just a pretty well standard twin carb engine, and that's how it exists today still.
And John Heffernan and Ken Greenlee they all used to live in London, and Wayne used to live in Belsize Park, towards that area. And they used to say that Wayne would
Blast
within the limit blast past them on the M1 going towards work. So he obviously enjoyed.
There was a great story about because they took the sliding sunroof out, but fixed perspex panelling, and there's a great story of him arriving at work in AJ one morning, drove it into the workshop. There were 5 apprentices, and they front of the car nudged in through the door. They said, and Wayne Cherry got out and said, "Someone come and fix this goddamn car," or something. And the roof obviously leaked, and he'd been at the gym the night before in Hampstead, and he had to wear his sweaty old gym towel to stop it dripping down his neck through the roof. And the guy said, he says, I was sort of looking to see which one of the 5 of us was going to do the job. He said, but the other 4 have disappeared. And it still links to this day. I don't know how many times, it still links to this day, so I'll just give up with it. But,
in terms of the hierarchy of the building, Wayne and the head of engineering would have been the absolute pinnacle of the pyramid, wouldn't they? So
yeah, absolutely.
When they've got a problem, you make sure that you can either fix it.
Ordinarily, he would have parked it up, got someone to do a work ticket, but no, he drove it in, so he must have been pretty mad.
And then his next creative imagination was magic.
Black Chevette.
Black magic
Chevette.
Chevette. The Chevette.
If you remember the Chevette, the little tiny engine in it, little tiny car. This went through years and years of different development. I've got photographs of it with all graduated colours up the side. But they were going to build a 2.3 Chevette to race the Escorts, because the Escorts were winning everything in the round. So they developed this 2.3 Chevette. But this one's completely different. It's got fiberglass wings, it's got a completely different body kit. At the time, remember the ground effect Formula 1 cars? They had a big clearance at the back and nothing at the front, so it sucked to the floor and all this. This was along them sort of lines. And it just kept progressing. It's a 77 car. They put bigger and bigger engines in it, they kept overheating. It's all leather and walnut inside.
Hand drilled.
And drilled walnut, because the speakers are behind the walnut. It's got heated leather seats on a Cadillac. Headrests are about this thick. And the driver's seat goes all the way back into the back seat, because Wayne was 6 foot odd and he couldn't get in a Chevette, so it's got
6 foot 4.
Yeah, so it's got extended seat runners, all the carpets on a hand built, dashboard is half a left-hand drive, half a right-hand drive, so they could get a glove box in it. So it looks like a Chevette, but it's totally different. And he decided to put some stupid idea, put rubber skirts underneath the spoiler. So the clearance off the road was about this. And then he decided to put side skirts down in with the same rubber on it. So it had rubber, so the ground clearance was like nothing. You can't get jack underneath it, you can't get up in the air. So the front skirts had to come off to make it drivable. But they were going to put it into production. It went all the way through, and they even made a brochure on it, which we've got some brochures. And once again, too expensive, it got canned. So it's the only one there.
Question for you. The Vauxhall got back into racing again because General Motors put the mockers on that for a long time.
Yeah.
So how much was it dealer team Vauxhall, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
How much did that influence design? Which way round was it, would you say?
Well, they influenced the engines, not the design.
Not the streamlining or anything like that, no.
Well, the Big Bertha was done by John Taylor
Yeah.
in secret
Yeah.
because they weren't supposed to be racing.
Have you ever seen pictures of the Big Bertha.
There's a
Big Bertha.
Big Bertha is a big four-door saloon car.
V8
Not one Cavalier.
No, it's a Ventura. Big Bertha.
Oh, Big Bertha, yes.
Yeah, so it's a Vauxhall Ventura.
Yeah, yeah.
So at the time, all these race cars were quite small, and then suddenly they come out with this great big monstrosity with a big V8 engine in it, which they reckon was a real handful, but it started winning. And then it had a catastrophic brake failure. And that was
It's unfortunate.
that was the end of that. And then they brought back Baby Bertha, which is based on a Droops Influenza. But that's about as far as it goes. So you can recognise it's a Droops Influenza. But that was all completely away from styling department. That was all done by DTV.
Okay.
Menkel built lines and did the engines.
And then we get to Mega Bertha,
Yeah, we got the bigger Bertha.
which was a styling that wasn't it?
Yeah.
And they did that in the design.
They had a hook up with Lotus as well, didn't they, for a while?
Yeah, that was the Lotus Carlton.
Yeah,
And then later the VX220.
yeah.
But they were all done through the German styling.
Yeah, that was all remote. So the Vauxhall styling department officially closed in 1983.
I was going to ask that.
But
Yeah.
it continued on as Bedford until 88. And
Now,
then
when did it
ABC,
stop?
I
When
think-
did it stop designing Vauxhalls, Adam?
Mm.
When did it stop designing Vauxhall cars,
The
basically?
very last full Vauxhall car was the FE, wasn't it? So-
The FE, and
The
what
last one without any German influence
Yeah.
at all, nothing, was the FD.
FD? Okay.
Sorry, yeah.
No, this is a fact, because Anne's been talking about the design director David Jones.
Yeah, yeah.
He retired in December 71, and they wanted to make him a retirement present car. And at the time they were building, FEs were just coming out, and he got wind of they were going to make him a car. And he'd been all the way through the Second World War with the Churchill tank and everything. And when he found out it was going to be an FE with a German design floor pan, he said, "Wait a minute." So to run anything with German on it, he wouldn't have. So to run around and find the last FD Ventura they could get hold of, take it up the styling department, rip it all apart, rebuild it, and that was his retirement present. But his retirement present was an old out production car.
So that was 71.
Yeah, and this car was reached in January 72, and he retired in December 72.
So that was what? That's 9 years then, is it? No, sorry. Yeah, 9. It was opened in 64. AJ got and closed 9 years later.
Yeah, but it's got no German parts on it at all. No
So
design.
that's the
no German design.
What's about in there?
I've got it.
What are you doing?
Why would you choose Germany to design cars? I mean,
Well,
as
they
in,
did. They still basically they had to then use German floor pans for the new car project and the Cavalier Mark 1. But Vauxhall did their own
Stick the
style
nose on it.
on the nose and on the
The
front.
cars and they've got a front of the car or something.
Yeah.
And, so
The car there, it's not quite as...
that's more of a sport hatch version that they imagine.
But
But
the
that's a
Mark-
model.
yeah.
That's not a real car. That's
The
a
Mark 1 Cavaliers, the Chevettes, were an Opel Cadet.
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
They called it T-car Chevette, and it's actually built worldwide. It was
Yeah.
built in Brazil, it was built all over. But they're all slightly different. But Vauxhall put their own engine in it, which was a bit of a backward step. Put their own nose cone on it, their own trim, and that made it different from the Cadet.
And again, even though that was unfortunate, that was still an advanced method of thinking because that's what car manufacturers do today. Your Vauxhall Corsa is also a Peugeot, it's also a Citroën, it's also a Lancia, and all sorts. So that platform sharing idea, even then, was innovative, even though it was out of a necessity to save money. And yeah, it's I think right up until Dave Garrow told me they did do a proposal for the Nova. So they were literally at the end, and they had done a proposal for it to change the front of the Nova, which was the last project they kind of worked on. And then they did do a Cavalier Mark II front as well. I think Kevin's got pictures of that, he showed me. They got that all the way to full-scale styling model approval, and then they just said, now we'll just go with the Opals. So the last, basically, Silver Aero is the very last Vauxhall design car, really, because that's the only one that actually exists and came to fruition, because after that it was all just Opals with Vauxhall badges. So Aero is a very fascinating subject, isn't it?
Yes.
Another fascinating way of creation.
The last creation from the design studio, isn't it? Really?
1980.
1980. So based on Mark 1 Cavalier sports hatch, Lots of work done in the wind tunnel to create a different body kit for it. All leather interior, upgraded the engine from 2 litre to 2.4, big massive great turbocharger on it. We think the idea was to sort of take the Cavalier to its ultimate point, which was always a bit contentious because I think the Mark II Cavalier came out only a few weeks later, didn't it? But they took it to the motor show in 1980, allegedly took 200-300 orders for it, which wasn't enough to continue into production, so that was another job canned. And
you could have, the idea was you could have used your previous Cavalier sport hatch to upgrade in any one of those 3 areas.
Yeah,
so
the
you could have the engine or the
interior.
interior, so
Yeah.
in selecting its options. But yeah, it's a really interesting car.
Yes.
And it's still obsessed with aerodynamics and floor skirts.
Yeah, it's got
and
front
downforce
skirts and front skirts, side skirts. Even in the wind tunnel, they put some complimented wheels on it, fancy spoke wheels, and it upset the airflow around the wheels, so they put some clear perspex covers on to get the coefficient of drag back. And I think at the motor show it had the clear perspex covers on it. But,
and I think
I've since remade a lot of this stuff and sort of tried to go back to where it was originally.
You took it back to its original kind of specification.
Because that was sold out from Vauxhall, and a dealer, closed dealer auction. It went to a dealer in West Wickham, who sort of put it back, quick paint job, all silver, and put it back on the road. And we're going to use it as a courtesy car, believe it or not. A couple of lads, Lindsay twins, who were very big in the Droops group at the time, got wind of it and went to sort of, no, you can't use it as a courtesy car, don't be ridiculous. But he said, the more we were telling them about it, and we wanted it, the more we sort of imagined the prices going up. They eventually got hold of it anyway, and it went through another few owners' hands, and I bought it in 2010. But since then I've gone back to the original paintwork.
So it's a 3.
And skirts, put all the rubber skirts back on and lots of bits and bobs.
You won't be driving it in here then, over these bumps.
And we did.
Yeah,
we were here on the open day, all 3 of them on there.
Scrapes and bumps over them.
They're
flexible.
How many Vauxhalls do you own, sir?
3.
3, right.
Silver Bullet, Silver Aero, and 71 FD VX490.
We took all of them out here. Yeah, Greg owns slightly more than that.
I own 5.
I only have 1 parking space, I only have 1.
Oh yeah, you've got everyday Vauxhalls as well.
As well.
Andy, would you just allow me a couple of minutes just to talk to the audience about the big project? Is that okay?
Yeah, when we finish,
yeah, when you finish, that's fine, yeah.
And so with the sort of regards to Vauxhall's design aspect, it all culminates really in the fact that these 2 guys keep the concept cars going so we can enjoy their work in full, and they don't hide them away. They're, Magic still has this wooden spoiler covered in fiberglass made in the styling department. All these beautiful original details that you can enjoy, and then you share the history, and then it can all complement with this as well. So without these 3 things going on, the Vauxhall design story would have probably fizzled away quite a long time ago, wouldn't it, really?
And the only 3 cars that ever got out.
Yeah.
Everything was scrapped. Everything onto them was scrapped.
And Dad and Greg and his dad.
I was going to say, thanks to Stuart.
My dad spent 18 months
you managed to get them out.
negotiating, trying to get 3 cars out. And they wouldn't let them have
from the style.
And they were ready to be scrapped. All the chassis plates were off, black car had, the windows were down, so all the leather was wet and mouldy, a leaky battery on the roof, all the paint was up. Dave Silver Bullet had been hit inside by a forklift, the tyres are flat, and they were ready to go, and in the end they said, look, I've got all the legal say, so if anything, because it could be wooden suspension or anything, taking it to extremes. And Vauxhall were just worried that something had come back and bite them, so they had all the legal stuff out, and they said, look, just sign it, excuse me, and we'll got to turn that off. And we'll, you can have it, and they give us a 2-hour window, gate pass, and that's literally all we had.
What year was that?
85, August 85. And so we had to get them, put a trailer, this is how big the lift was. At the time we pulled them over, sticks in my throat, it was a Ford Granada we pulled them over. With the trailer, obviously, and we had 2 hours to get all 3 cars out. But the lift is so big, it could take the Granada, the trailer, and the car on the back in the lift. That's how big the lift was. But even then they'd moved them, so when we got there you couldn't see past the cars, see anything else on the roof. We just literally had to pick the cars up and take them home.
So, a question, yeah?
When they shut the apprentice part at the airport, they had some concept cars parked up there. I was working up there, and they all come out on the back of low loaders. I was carrying a small catch with a different back, and other vehicles of a similar design. I just wondered whether they scrapped or...
Yeah.
They very likely would have been.
They used to see him out the back of AJ Block, as he was in Griffin House. And they'd take the engine out, smash the engines up, and then the body shells. They had a die raft out there, and imagine the dies that used to make the roofs, great big heavy dies, and just pick them up.
Because obviously they couldn't have anyone getting secrets out or corporate secrets and all that sort of stuff, and if they weren't going to use it, you just destroyed it. Design moves on, you innovate all the time, you don't actually think about heritage and you don't think about that. It's only thanks to people who actually appreciate heritage that they then step in and save it. So otherwise they would have just carried on, they would have moved on to the Calibra and the Amiga programs and the Vectras and all this, and because they're just moving on, they're always developing product and everything like that. So it's very tragic really, because that's my favourite one, and I don't know, it will never be remade. It's just a sport house out of a digital dashboard in 1971. They imagined you look at it, it looks like a modern Porsche interior, and this is 1971. So, and they just go to the scrap to just chop them up. So it's very, very disappointing. But the good news really is that Wayne took his Vauxhallness with him, and whether they liked it or not, he kind of, up until I would probably say he retired in 2004, when the VX220s and the Astra G was the more square one in the early 2000s, he was still quite influential because he was very passionate about Vauxhall. And you can tell in that period of time, all the Vauxhall design thinking that he carried over to Opel, he instilled in that with the aerodynamics, the styling, heavy focus on design interaction and making sure that it all worked together. And then after that, obviously, you can see the change in styling between when he retired and when the new guy came in. I think it's Mark Adams at the moment. Haven't met him yet, hopefully. So, yeah, it's very interesting to see that although that all closed, he's still maintained his passion for Vauxhall and aerodynamics. To a point, he had a retirement gift, didn't he, in 2004?
Give him a car, yeah.
Yeah, and he could choose any car he wanted from his illustrious General Motors career. He achieved basically the zenith of the car design world, which is the GM Vice President of Design role. So you oversee the whole global GM design activity. And he chose Vauxhall's Equus concept car, which is on the banner out there, and they gave it to him, because that's all he wanted out of that entire career. That was his favourite car. He still got it. He still got it. It's parked next to his Ferrari that he would have rebuilt.
And the funny thing is, his Ferrari, when he built the black Chevette, he looked at the front and he said it looked like a frog. And he looked at his Ferrari, and if you look at the black Chevette, it's got a replica Ferrari grille to fill that hole. So they pinched the dimensions off the Ferrari, made one up and stuck it in the Chevette.
Where does the name Vauxhall come from? Is it after somebody's What?
Vauxhall in London.
Their original site.
Oh, you mean what's the place?
The place, yes. Yeah, moved to Luton in 1905.
The water pump manufacturer.
Yeah, Marine
engines. Alexander
Wilson.
Alexander Wilson Marine.
If you go down down the end of the corridor, it's the whole story.
We invite you all to go and look at the exhibition at the end if you haven't seen it already. That is in thanks to Tony and Aisha over there, who curated that entire thing and invited me and Dave and Greg and or to form part of that process to share the design department story. So we're very thankful for that. Thank you very much. And that is part of a big wider project which we're trying to make sure that the industrial heritage of Luton is celebrated in a much more meaningful way, so that it's not forgotten. Andy King, would you like to do your presentation on that?
Yeah, just that, Adam.
Any more details?
For 6 years, I chair Save Our Town local community group, and Adam's part of the team. For 6 years, we've been working. I'll use that word advisedly. Working with the council to have a permanent industrial heritage centre in Luton, celebrating, of course, Vauxhall. It'd be Vauxhall centric, naturally. Bedford Trucks, Skefco, Electrolux, and all the others that Lutonians will remember from the mostly the 20th century, because the town has got a massive identity issue, both internally and externally. You ask kids in the town now have no clue about Luton's supreme position as a manufacturing and engineering centre over the decades, because nobody's telling them there's nothing to show them. So that needs to be put right. So it's a work in progress. I have to be honest and say it's a little bit warmer now than it's been for the previous 4 years. Statements been made supporting it, but of course, as always, it's down to money. So if there's anybody with a few million spare, put your hand up. We need some contributions. I think it's going to need some private investment as well. So anyway, just so that you're aware, I would echo what Adam has said about the two ladies that put that exhibition together. Took them a year to do it. They parachuted in from nowhere as far as Vauxhall was concerned, and they've done an absolutely superb job. So congratulations to them.
And yeah, with that, thank you for all listening to us talk about cars and design. It's been fantastic. I'm going to move around a bit. If you want to come and have a chat and ask any questions, we'll be hanging about, and then we'll put some things you can look at to interact with.
Photos and stuff here.
Wayne's bricks from outside his office.
Can we just say a big thanks to all the speakers that have helped tell us stories today? I think we've all learned a lot, haven't we? And it's really brought an important piece of that history to the forefront. And thank you to the team also that helped design the middle bit of our exhibition. We wouldn't have been able to tell that story if I hadn't. So, and all the books were about the power of that story as well. So thank you everybody.
And it's a shame that the town that call themselves the Hatters should be in the, I don't know what, Griffins.
The Griffins, yeah.
Well, 1800.
Yeah, 1885, that's all we made was hats, right? So